Well, greetings to you, saints. Bishop Kirby Clements here with the Community of the Holy Spirit, and this is our regular Wednesday night empowerment hour. As you know, it's a time we gather together to discuss topics that I do believe have significance in the kingdom of God, and I like to believe in our own lives. So I'm asking the Lord if He would speak to us and speak through us. Help us to hear to say some wonderful things that will honor Him and provoke us all to faith and obedience. And above all, if He would enable us to understand things that He already knows about His world, His kingdom, His church, His people, about each of us individually. I want to talk tonight about vision or dreams. And I'm going to title my topic of the night, Right to Vision. You know, the book of Habakkuk is a very interesting book. Habakkuk is a prophet of the Lord, and he's living in a time when there are a lot of controversies. Um, the law is no longer obeyed. People are doing sin. They are violating the commandments of God. And it appears as if the Lord is dormant. He's not doing anything. And Habakkuk is concerned because the Lord is using people who are worse than Israel to chastise them. And he doesn't quite understand that. And he's lamenting about it. He's not accusing God, but he's in a state of perplexity. And the Lord tells him, He said, now I'm going to give you some understanding. He said, the people that I'm using to correct my people, I'm going to correct them because they began to think that their power rests in their own resources. So I'm going to correct them. But I want you to write down what I'm about to tell you. I want you to make it plain so that those that read it will understand it and they'll be able to follow with it. Write the vision and make it plain. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard that? How many of us have had promises of God? That's what I call it, the promise of God or vision. And all too often we have challenges with it. The Gospels record a parable the Lord gave about the parable of the sower. He said there was a man, there was a sower who sowed a seed, and the seed fell among different grounds. He began to describe the ground as the heart or the receptivity or the capability of people to understand what they've heard. And he said it fell on stony ground. Then it fell on ground where there were weeds. Then it fell on grounds where apparently it was exposed and the fowl of the air came and devoured it. But then he said, lastly, it fell on good ground. In essence, he's talking about the receptivity and the ability of people to understand. He describes it like this. Some received the word, but because they didn't have death or experiences, that the word didn't have effect in their lives for a long time. Others, because they didn't understand the ways of God. When challenges came, they gave up. And there were others who let other things that were lesser things. You heard me say that there are greater things and lesser things. There are temporary things and permanent things. And they allowed wealth and riches and the fact that challenges to turn away. But then there were those upon whom it fell and they understood. They were able to deal with the challenges. They were not not intimidated by what I refer to you as a spirit of intimidation, not a disembodied spirit, but it's information that comes. I've spoken to you about the term many times of information that comes to us to make us question whether or not we've heard from God. And they didn't succumb to that. And the critical thing was that the Lord said to the prophet, write the vision, make it plain. How you hear, how you understand, the necessity of having a comprehension of the ways of God. I've said to you many times that when God makes promises, He declares the end from the beginning, but He does not always give the middle part. The Apostle Paul received the vision, as you know, and I'm sure Paul recorded the moments of that time. The scripture doesn't say that Paul discussed that with a lot of people, but he did go up after a number of years and meet with Peter. He shared with Peter what he had seen, what he had heard. And he said that Peter didn't add anything to him. That's sort of like Paul. He brought it before the elders, and James was there. And he shared with them how the Lord had spoken to him about reaching out to the Gentiles. And they concluded that gave him the right foot of fellowship. The critical thing I want to deal with tonight is about our vision. Sometimes we've had a dream or a vision or impression. I'm running across quite a number of people who wondered if they heard from God correctly because things have not happened the way they think they should. Some think they might have made a misstep or done something wrong. They're not too sure. And I thought this would be a good time for us to go back and relook at what we think God said to us. Relook at what we think he said to us. Relook at the dream. Relook at the moment. You heard me speak about the 3 M's. There must have been a moment when the Lord visited us, a moment in which something happened that we knew was of God. Paul would never deny that visitation he had. Peter would never deny the fact that the Lord spoke to him about casting a net on the other side. He would not deny that. Moses would not deny the burning bush. As you know, I've listened to the Ten Commandments and Moses. In fact, there's a new version that's out now because it has about 5 people who are giving commentaries as the movie unfolds. It's very insightful. But he would never deny that there was a burning bush. A voice spoke to him. He wouldn't deny that. And so what I want to do, I want to first of all give you a little bit of assignment. I want you to go back and rehearse what you believe the Lord said to you. I'd like for you to write it out. I do that constantly. Promises the Lord has made to me, things he said, and I write it out and I look at them every day because I want to make sure that I'm comprehending what he said, that I didn't misinterpret it. I often say to people when I'm preaching that people apparently don't always hear what I say. They often interpret what I say. So often they will conclude that I said certain things that I didn't say. So first of all, I want you to go back and I want you to rehearse what you believe he said. Because remember now in the garden, one of the critical strategies of evil was to ask the question, hath God said? Because we want to know if we heard correctly. Warfare many times is not questioning whether or not we heard from God, but it's been concerned whether or not we heard correctly. That's the critical thing. So I think the critical thing is that I'd like for you to go back and to relook at the parable, especially the parable of the sower, because it's been a great source of information to me whenever I'm dealing with people who are dealing with disappointments. I would ask them, just tell me, what did the Lord say? What really did he say? And also, I'd like for you to tell me what things in your life command your attention. What things command your attention? I've spoken to you many times about the idea that some people are catastrophizers. That is, when events present themselves in their life, they allow one negative event to control their entire life. And I've shared with you about what I call the explanatory style, how you explain events, or it's the law of perspective, how you explain things to yourself. Because once you receive a vision or a dream, I can promise you, Paul experienced that. As you know, once Paul was visited by Ananias after he had been stricken blind, Ananias laid hands on him that he might receive his sight. And Ananias gave him a word. He said, Paul, the Lord, even Jesus, who appeared to you in the way, has sent me to say that you are a chosen vessel and that you will suffer many things for his name's sake. Now, that wasn't a whole lot of information. He didn't tell him how he would suffer. But later on, as Paul was going through great difficulty, the Lord appeared to him that a messenger of Satan has been sent to buffet him. Now, a messenger of Satan was not sickness, it wasn't disease, it wasn't blind eyes, it wasn't anything like that. It was simply wherever Paul would go, evil would raise up insurrection against Paul. People would come against him. Many of them were Jews, some were Gentile. They would criticize him. They would harm him. They would stone him. He talks about being shipwrecked, like being hungry, lost in the deep, been beaten 49 times less one. He talks about physical things. And then the Lord begins to give him clarity. He says to him, so that because of the abundance of the revelation given you, this messenger has been given you. But Paul, I want you to know one thing: it will never overcome you. Now, that's very critical because I think sometimes we forget that when we have a vision of the Lord, we believe that because it is a divine promise, that it would automatically come to pass. Paul could have quit any point in time. He could have stopped his course. He could have. When he says at the very end of his journey to Timothy, he said, "Now I have kept the faith. I have fought a good fight." Now, what is he saying? He's saying to us, now, I didn't have to keep the faith. I did not have to fight a good fight. He said, but I had a revelation from the Lord. So I want you to go back and write down what I call the extenuating circumstances surrounding what he said to you. Were there some factors? Were there some propositions made? Were there some things that were conditional? I never forget when the Lord, forgive my personal analysis, but when the Lord called Sandra and I into the ministry, he made some very unusual statements to me. He said, number one, never to defend yourself. That was number one. He said, endure hardness as a good soldier. Don't be entangled with the affairs of this life, so you may please him who's called you. That's what he said. Then he said, never be concerned about what people call you. You know, back then it were big on titles and whether people call you a pastor or a prophet or a bishop, etc. So don't be concerned about that. Don't even be concerned about where people seat you, because that was really big. You go to a conference and they didn't seat you on the front row. You know, people got annoyed and got irritated. So he said to me, in essence, to Sandra and I, don't be concerned about these things, because if you're concerned about them, they will distract you. And then he told me something that was most significant. He said, I don't want you to get caught up with other aspects, like administration, other kind of programs, things of that nature. He said, I want you to hide the word in your heart until you become like a living epistle. And so over the last, almost 50 years, I bought dozens of tapes of Alexander Scourby on the Old and New Testament. I would put them in a car and I would play them. Wherever I'd be riding during the day, I'll put the tape on. Whether it's an Old Testament, New Testament, or whether it's one of the epistles, or whether it's the gospel, or the book of Acts, whatever it was, I played them till I could actually rehearse them in my mind. So he said, now, in essence, I'm making you a promise. I'm calling you to go out into the world. I'm calling you not to the multitudes, but to my special people at a special time. So I knew that my ministry was not called to the masses. Not. In fact, my local ministry many times cannot be compared to my translocal ministry. I shared to you many times a principle that I've learned. God determines the nature of your ministry. He determines the numbers of people that you shepherd. He said, I've given them shepherds or pastors of 10, of 100, of 1,000. In essence, the Lord determines it. In essence, it goes like this. If he's given you the ability to shepherd 1,000 people and you assign 100, you will bring it up to 1,000. If he's given you the privilege to shepherd, 100, and somebody gives you a work of 1,000, you bring it down to 100. That's because God has given a gift. See, the gifts that God gives us, or the enabling that he gives us to discharge what he's called us to do. So the critical thing I want you to go back to do, when he said, write the vision and make it plain. Now, write the vision, make it plain. In essence, he wants you to share the vision with other people. Now, sometimes we don't do that. We keep it quiet. Mary hid the thing that the angel said to her in the heart. She pondered it. She didn't speak to anyone, even when she came to her cousin Elizabeth, and she shared some information there, but she kept it within her heart. I want you to share what you believe the Lord has spoken to you with someone else. Now, that's where the idea of a resident skeptic comes in. This is someone that can hear you as you talk about what the Lord said to you or promised you, and they can offer you some input. I believe it's invaluable. My greatest level of input was for my wife, Sandra. But I shared it with other leaders, not with everybody. The word said, don't cast your pearl before swine. You have to be very discriminatory as to who you talk to about what the Lord has spoken to you. But I want you to write it down. I want you to go back and look at what he said. I want you to dissect it. That's what I want you to do. I want you to put it alongside of the parable of the sower and see if any kind of way any of those descriptive explanation of the heart, how people receive something, react toward, if any of it relates to you. If you have substituted the vision for something less or something else, and that's a good possibility. I've had people who have been called to be a prophet, and they accepted the idea of a pastor. Now, you need to understand all gifts are equal, but they were called to go out. They were called to go out, and yet still someone gave them a local church, and they assumed it. They took it, but they were never totally effective. And they became frustrated because, number one, if you're trying to emulate something you're not gifted to do it, it creates frustration. So you've got to determine what it is that you do. And what you do will be in accordance with what God has called you to do. It'll be what you do well. It will be what other people acknowledge that you do well. That's very critical. And it would be along the line of what you're most satisfied when you do it. I recognize that there are greater gifts and there are lesser gifts. And I dare say that you learn what those are. You learn what those are. So I want you to, first of all, I want you to write it down. Once you go back, just like you said, the backer, write it down, okay? And I want you to talk a little bit about the strategy that you've been engaging to bring it to pass. He said to Israel, if you will obey me and keep my commandments, you'll be a holy nation and a royal priesthood. With the conditions that he gave you, I'd like for you to talk to yourself about what have you been doing to bring this to pass? How have you been cooperating with God? And I think that's very critical. I'm talking about now writing the vision, making it plain. Because I do believe, as I've shared with you many times, that oftentimes a vision is delayed because we do not understand the process by which it can be fulfilled. And sometimes we have gone in the opposite direction. We've accepted a lesser thing or something that's different. Make note of this. You can be successful at the wrong thing. That was a very powerful statement to me. You can be successful at the wrong thing. Success and failure is not always described the way we think it should. It's not always the vastness of a ministry. It's not always the degree of exposure or anything like that. It's the fact that God has validated what we are doing. And he validates that, I do believe, with signs and wonders. I do believe that. At some point in time, the Spirit of God will speak into our lives. He will give us clarity and tell us what we're doing is of God. I do believe that. I've seen that happen. But I felt strongly just to talk to you about it. They look at some examples of people who fell short. I think Timothy finished his course. But now Paul gives them some strategies. He said, now, first of all, I want you to remember the prophecies that went before on you. That's what he said. I want you to remember them. He said, I want you to warfare according to them. Now, he wasn't talking about fighting the devil or speaking to evil. No, he was saying now you war it by staying true. Remember now, obedience to God is the highest level of warfare. To obey God. That's the one thing that contradicts evil, because that's the one thing that evil spirits couldn't do or refused to do, was to obey. And so when you obey him, you be careful, that's the greatest thing you can do. So he said to Timothy, according to the prophecies, war good warfare. He said to study to show yourself approved. I think it's difficult to be a student of Scripture without studying, without reading, without rehearsing it. You can have all type of learning tools, and they're good, they're wonderful. Read the Scriptures, rehearse them, play them over in your mind. Hear me carefully. And he said to them, he said, now I want you to rehearse them. Rehearse them. He said, give yourself to reading, to studying, to meditation. He said, give yourself. He said, also, I want you to make sure you practice. He said, now I've called you to Be an evangelist. Evangelist. He said, practice that. Practice that. Because hear me carefully, you and I both know the more that you practice, the more effective you become. That's what he said. And he said, take heed to people that are around you, those who are older, more experienced, or the elderly. He said, listen to them. Take advantage of their learning and their wisdom and their counsel. Now, Paul has given Timothy a strategy. He said, now, be persuaded that the faith that was in your grandmother, that was in your mother, is also in you. It's in you. He said, now, these things will keep you on track. And number one, the vision will become plain, will become clear. So what I'm saying is that tonight is that write the vision. I felt strongly for him to say that to me. Write it down. Write the vision. Rehearse it. Relook at it. Make sure that there were no extenuating conditions in there that you might have overlooked. Because sometimes when a vision comes to us through a prophetic word, we don't always hear everything. I know that because over the years, when Sandra and I received prophetic words, we heard them at the time. They were very exciting. But I knew I could not retain everything that was said. So I would always, because they were often given to us on a tape, I would transcribe the tape. Been doing that since 1981. Transcribe the tape. And I would reread the tape every day. I've done that for years. I know this may be repeat to you, but it's something he keeps putting in my heart. So I wanted to be very clear that I wasn't missing any ingredient. So believe it or not, when you talk about this, I want you just to be aware that things will come against us. And that's to be expected. Most of it will become because of what I call propaganda. That's information that doesn't come from on high. And it would be very prevalent. I can't tell you how many people have said to me they heard something that created confusion. And you have to be careful how you hear. Evil understands our future. Evil spirits are not concerned about our past. They're more concerned about our future. I think they are aware of where we're going, what God has assigned to us to do. They are. And they do everything to preempt that. And that comes many times through information. So be careful how you hear. If you get additional words or additional information, put it alongside of what you've already heard and what you've already know. God does not eclipse himself. He does not. He's not the author of confusion. He is not. Trust me. If he speaks something, he will add more information because gradually more insight will come to you. I've seen that happen. And don't be surprised if the dimension of the vision, the dimension of the ministry or the promise is expanded. There are things that we do during the earlier years we no longer do. The Lord will say to us, that phase of ministry and life has come to an end. And that can happen. That can happen. It can come to an end. It can change. Be open to that. But then always ask yourself this question: how does this fit into what I have always done? And I promise you, God will give you some clarity. So I wanted to bring this to you tonight. I felt strongly in my heart that he said, talk to him about Habakkuk and how Habakkuk was confused because spiritual propaganda. Things were happening. The law was not being obeyed. People were rebellious. And it appears as if God was doing nothing. And he wanted to know why. And God set him on a hill and said, now, I'm about to say something to you. Write what I've said to you. Write it so that others can read it and run with it. And that comes a time when you're shared with other people. And once that became clear, Habakkuk could say these words: the just shall live by faith. He said it. They shall live by faith. Not by emotions, not by feelings. And he can say this: success in God is not a matter of ability and skill or enthusiasm. Believe it or not, it's a matter of revelation. Revelation speaks to faith. One word, one thought, one idea from God can bring clarity to your mind. And whenever things are not clear, ask the Lord to give you clarity. He will do that. He will give you clarity. So Lord, give me understanding. And when you sit down to pray, and many times we would do that, we would sit down, we would pray out loud over what we heard spoken to us. We would talk, we would speak it out loud. And as we spoke, each when we come to a sentence, we'd ask, Lord, give me understanding what this means. Because I know, I don't totally understand. Give me clarity. And he would give us clarity. And so we could be just like Habakkuk said at the end, he made this critical statement. Though there be no provisions, though things not be going the way that I think they should be going, I'm paraphrasing, he said, yet I will trust in the Lord, and I will joy in the God of my salvation. In essence, he said that my happiness is not an emotional thing. It's a conviction that God has spoken. I did hear him correctly, and I'm going to obey him. So I pray that this will be some points that you will look at, rehearse them, write the vision, write it again, go over it again. I think he wants us to do that and make sure that we're clear. We're clear because God will fulfill his word. Remember now, promise of God is always conditional, not conditional based upon the faithfulness of God, based upon our understanding. I would like to strongly encourage you to read a little book by Bishop Bill Hammond on prophecies, personal prophecies. He gives some insight onto prophetic language. Insight on when God says he will do something, he means we will do something. When God says today, it may not be a day in our time, and would help us to navigate through those points of procrastination, help us to understand. And when things are not unfolding the way we think, when God is not speaking more about a matter, be convinced of these two things. He may have already said all he needs to say, or number two, you may already know all that you need to know. I've been many times when the Lord has not spoken to something, he's not put a word on it because already I know what I'm supposed to do. And so I pray that you'll do that, and I think it'll be a source of help. I think it'll be a source of help for you. And I pray the Lord will help you. And any kind of way that I can be of assistance, I will help you to do that. So Bishop Kirby Clements talking about write the vision, review the revelation, see the idea of what God spoke to you. Did he add certain conditions to it that we might have omitted? And sometimes it'd be good just to write it out again. Just write it out again. Just type it out again with all of this detail. If you have a tape, listen to the tape, the original tape, and see if there's something that might have been omitted, or see if you have it all down together. And then you have to conclude the one critical thing, the one, there's no failure if you don't quit. And I promise you that in itself, the Lord said to me many times, don't stop doing what you're doing until the one who told you to start tells you to stop. Well, the Lord keep you, and I thank the Lord for putting these ideas in my heart. I hope that you will study them and research them and look at it clearly. I know it would be a source of strength and help to you. And it would help you as you engage other people. Because people have visions, they have dreams, they have impressions the Lord has given to us. And make sure they're thoroughly persuaded to what God has spoken to them. And I think the clarity would come when you know this is what the Lord said, and you did hear him correctly. Bishop Kirby Clements, and for those that are here tonight, we send our greetings to you and thank you for your questions, your comments. We'll try to cover some of those at a later point in time. But may the Lord keep you in all that you do here now. God bless you well.